This is Brenda Marks with another edition of Nurse Minute. It is my pleasure to introduce Darrel Hicks. Darrel recently retired as the Director of Environmental Services at a 500-bed, award-winning hospital in St. Louis, Missouri. Darrel is the owner-principal of Darrel Hicks, LLC, and is internationally recognized as a subject matter expert in infection prevention and control as it relates to cleaning. He is the author of Infection Control for Dummies. Welcome, Darrel.
Thank you, Brenda.
Darrel, my first question for you is, what would you say is the most common problem you see in how hospitals clean their patient mattresses?
I think the biggest problem is that those whose role it is to clean and disinfect mattresses don't understand how important it is to do a thorough job, because this is something that is within what I call the patient zone, that 3 feet perimeter around a patient's bed that usually is the most contaminated. And, studies have shown that, if a patient has been isolated for MRSA or C. diff or one of the other contact sorts of isolations, that the person that goes into that bed after that person leaves and the room is cleaned and disinfected, that person that follows the first patient into the bed is 40% more likely to get the same illness as the previous patient had. So I think that mattresses play a role in the transmission of disease and need to be looked at more closely than they have been in the past.
So, Darrel, how often do you see damaged bed or stretcher mattresses in the hospital setting?
I see it quite often. Probably 40%, 50% of these surfaces do have punctures, tears, rips, and I see them repaired, attempted at repairs with electrical tape, duct tape, and these are not adequate, and nor are they accepted by the Joint Commission that accredits hospitals here in the United States, and so they frown very much on these mattresses that someone has attempted to repair with inadequate material. So that tape then becomes a harbor for pathogenic organisms such as the ones I talked about earlier, MRSA and VRE, C. diff, those things that are passed from one patient to the other through contact.
How does damage specifically impact the cleanability of a surface?
It's just virtually impossible to clean that surface. Once it is broken, that surface is broken, you can't get to that material, the foam or whatever that's underneath there, to properly clean it and disinfect it. So it's quite often that happens, but it's impossible that you can do a thorough job of cleaning and disinfecting. So it becomes a pocket, a reservoir of could be body fluids, and so it becomes a real infection control nightmare for the facility, because housekeeping, those who clean those surfaces, can't properly clean and disinfect them without getting that area even more wet. And then we have other problems, with cleaners and what have you. They get down into the foam, and eventually that foam needs to be replaced and the surface repaired.
So, Darrel, if you were to prevent the damage or render the damage intact, how does that impact the cleanability?
Well, I think that if the surface is repaired appropriately with the appropriate material that is approved by, Joint Commission and others that recognize products such as Clean Patch, that is a very appropriate material to patch a tear or a puncture, then there's no way for whatever is in the foam or beneath that area to escape to the surface. But most mattresses that I've seen come with a top and a bottom to them, or a zipper opening that you can take the cover off and inspect the foam to make sure that it is not damaged by body fluids. If it is, then you need to replace that foam. But otherwise, just patch the surface and zip it back up. But I think that the surface is essential to repair, and then check for any leakage that may have gone into the foam that could present a problem in the future.
Okay, that makes sense. Darrel, I have another question for you. Based on our experience with hospitals in the U.S. and Canada, we see essentially two scenarios surrounding the mattress budget. And first of all, a lot of people don't know who pays for their mattresses. You have to dig deeper. But in your experience, who most commonly owns the mattress budget? Is it the EVS and facilities, or does it tend to be more each clinical unit is responsible for?
Well, at my former hospital, whenever we started digging deeper, it was as if no one really owned the mattresses. Things that travel around the hospital, a patient bed could be in one room today and a different room tomorrow on a different unit. So it got to the point that we had to decide that it was a facility issue. And once we decided that it was a facility, the hospital owns it, it doesn't really matter which budget it comes out of.
So, Darrel, in your facility, EVS took the lead on the repair, but how would you describe, hospital staff awareness of damaged equipment? How would you compare, the clinicians versus the EVS folks?
Well, when we partnered with the infection prevention staff, then they became kind of the messengers, and then that way it didn't look like, housekeeping really owned this problem. It was an infection prevention problem.
Well, that is very refreshing to hear, Darrel. We always like to say that, damage is everybody's problem, and yet
right.
Some hospitals we do seem to struggle a little bit. Other hospitals take it and run with it. Well, thank you so much, Darrel. We're out of time, but I want to thank you so much for answering our questions and joining us today. And if you have any questions for Darrel and myself, please contact us via email on the slide on your screen. So thank you so much, Darrel.
Thank you, Brenda. Good talking.